So many upgrades from some pretty big teams, and I'm talking about Mercedes, Aston Martin, and Haas actually bringing a lot here to discuss about. Also some big time liveries from the American side that I really love to see. So much to cover in this video that I'm excited to show you. Please subscribe if you haven't. It only takes like a second. It does a lot for me and it lets me make these beautiful videos for you guys and entertainment in general. So to anybody that subscribed, likes, or does anything for this video, thank you so much. Watching it means a lot to me. Let's get into the upgrades and everything for the Austin GP. So as I said, we got a couple of liveries here. First ones I want to know is the Red Bull one. I personally like this. Now, I've seen it get pretty good criticism. Some people don't like it. Some people think it's trash. I actually like it a lot. I think it's like a solid 8 out of 10 on the car. I like the shininess to it. I also like another part of livery is what they've done to Logan Sargent's car. It's nothing crazy, but I like the look of it. I like what they've done with this little American flag on the engine cover and side pod. I think it looks slick. Much better than the Haas car that I talked about in the past video. But speaking of Haas upgrades in general, let's talk about the rear wings. First rear wings I want to cover are the big teams with the exception of Alpine. Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Alpine. Now here, as we can see, Red Bull, Mercedes, very high load. They're going for more downforce, less tire shred, but slower on the straights. Ferrari's medium to high, it tends to suit the car better when the car isn't in a very high downforce spec, so they prefer this, good for their car. Alpine, medium spec. My whole thing for Alpine is I think they go with these low wings because the car has weak engine power and they need that straight line speed to actually compete. The aero on the car is actually not that bad, so that's why they go for that. But Red Bull is very loaded, so that DRS effectiveness is going to be crazy here. Them and Aston Martin is going to be good. Hopefully Mercedes is improving upon that. Their DRS has not been great, but we'll get into their upgrades later on into the video. The other four teams, well, this one's repeated twice. We didn't really get like a Haas rear wing, but the Haas rear wing was medium to high. There's no picture of it, but I saw it in some other thing that I'll talk about. McLaren with their rear wing, which is a medium to high downforce spec. Alfa Romeo is also medium to high, but Aston Martin is in a high downforce spec. It's actually their Monaco wing that they had with a couple of revisions on it, like the back corner cut out a little bit more. McLaren is looking to be strong here. Lando's downplaying it. They're going to be strong, trust me. Now let's get into what I would say are the biggest parts of the Austin GP. It's these huge upgrades. We're first going to talk about floors, and specifically talking for Alfa Romeo first. So they actually brought a revision to the floor, and you look at this and you're like, wow, it's odd. No other car has this as of currently. It's kind of in the middle. Every team is starting to add these little metal grates on the back of their floor to actually compress the air there. But for this is going through the underfloor, getting up onto the upper floor. They made a little segment to where the air passes through. That little upper part right there is really just to add effectiveness to the air going through that hole faster. It's a very odd looking thing. I don't have like a full analysis of what this could be. That's my only analysis of it so far, is that the air is actually going through the middle of it to pick up the air faster and bring it up on the upper floor coming from the underfloor. But what they have in the beginning right here, where it's being pointed out to, that little kind of curved edge in the start, I'm not really sure what that is kind of tending to right now. I'll have to keep looking into it. But a new floor from Alfa Romeo. But speaking of new floors and completely big revisions, let's talk about Haas. So as for Haas, here is their undercut that they have right now and a couple of revisions to their floor. So yes, they have a little bit more significant of an undercut. It's not that drastic, but it's there. As you can also see, side impact structure, which is part of every chassis, is pretty much the same in every chassis, but depending on where your cockpit is located is where you might see certain parts bug out. To actually do this undercut side pod that they've done, they had to have that kind of out. It does look a bit odd. I don't know what it's really going to do to the car. It shouldn't impact it too much, but it will impact it to some degree. You can see it on the Ferrari, but the Ferrari actually covers it and puts in a different type of line. I thought Haas was going to do the same thing. They did not. But you can see the floor edge was brought up. They're going for something very Mercedes-esque, also very Ferrari-esque. It's just bringing up that underfloor and giving you those extra curves, bringing it up, promoting more outwash on the side of the car. Remember this is a big thing for these Haas upgrades. Ferrari is closely looking at these, seeing what they can analyze, because there's a big part of the side pod that I will mention in a little bit as to what I think Ferrari is very much looking into. Here's another picture of it, and as you can see, the actual engine cover itself is not as profound as it is on other cars. Those are huge, huge cooling grates on it. It's even on another part of the car, but you see that this actual floor design and the side pod, you know what? It is a little Red Bull-esque. It does have that little inlet that I'll show in just a second out. But the actual side pod itself is very, very similar, in my opinion, to almost a Williams in that type of way. Its actual slide pod itself isn't as significant as I said slide pod. Now let's keep that in mind when looking at this car, because I will bring that up. Here's that little part that I wanted to show you, the Red Bull part that everybody talks about, it just being out. I never have a name for this. It's just like the side pod inlet being a little bit more out, promoting more undercut for the car. The floor itself is also pretty highly raised, which is also something Ferrari has. They don't have the S-tuck like Ferrari, but a couple similarities to note. Here's another picture of that side pod, not too much different to what they originally had. They just have that bringing it out. Pretty close to Aston Martin, but this is what I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about the actual slide pod of the car. When you first look at this car, you didn't think that it had that, but now looking off of this image, it's not as significant as an Aston Martin or a McLaren. It's pretty close to what Mercedes has in the slide pod. It's not a huge dip, but this is to promote more to the rear of the car. They're trying to probably introduce this for less tire wear. I know they haven't messed with the suspension, but the actual car itself picks up a lot of philosophies of other teams. I wouldn't call it an exact copy. It's trying to get the best of 3 or 4 different worlds. Let's see if that impacts it. I think the car will be better than we actually think it is, but we'll see. I mean, through the simulations that Alfred put out, wow, there's no way Aston Martin's gonna be 9th. He had it in Qatar, Alpine being 10th. I wouldn't really count these as accurate, but let's get into the rest of the video. So here's our first pictures of the Mercedes floor. A couple big things to actually note here. Before in the car, it's tough to see because, you know, their car is completely carbon fiber, so everything kind of blends in with the car. But they changed that little upper bit going towards the underfloor, the actual side part of it. They changed it just by the slightest, but that's not the biggest thing to note in this picture. It's actually that little hump that they have there. That was way more circular before, and the image isn't showing it as much. It's way more reduced, and it's got a different curve to it. A little McLaren-esque. I'll actually put up a picture showing you what I'm talking about. McLaren has a kind of double-edged. Mercedes went for this to push more outwash into the car, because they already have that little winglet up top that is being shown in the picture as well, just slightly. That actually tries pushing the air going through the inner part of the undercut. This is pushing it more out for more outwash. And the next part of the upgrade shows us exactly why it's doing this. As you can see, a little bit more sharper, defined edges, but more air to be flowing through on its new update, and a couple more changes to its beginning part where the outwash is coming out of. Now, this is actually bringing it up into the inner floor or top of the floor. As I said for the Haas car, same thing. Each team has this. It's very close to Red Bull with only 2. I saw that Haas had 3. I think Ferrari also has 3. Red Bull and Mercedes both have 2. So pushing more air from its actual underfloor. Last things to know with the Mercedes underfloor, seeing these upgrades and seeing this floor edge right now, we know at the bottom of the floor has also been upgraded. And this is to work upon their new direction for 2024. We saw that the actual Venturi tunnels were pretty short. They must have elongated them to actually get this effect to be better. We're not going to be able to see the underfloor, obviously, unless somebody tumbles into a crash. Don't think that will happen, and don't think we'll get lucky enough to see that. And last thing I wanted to know was for Aston Martin. Yes, they brought a floor upgrade here. Here is a shot of them actually weighing the floor and seeing how much the floor can actually take with certain weights captured by Fabrega as well. But you can see some revisions here. Some revision to the side pod. Hopefully we get some more clear pictures that I can actually put on my community page or in here. But you see that they actually have that floor edge up. They're finally working upon that super, super simple floor that they had. The edge was too simple. There was not really much going on with that floor. And the actual underfloor itself was also said to be causing a lot of problems in the direction that they wanted to. A lot having to do with the actual fast corners being improved, but slow being worse because of mechanical grip actually ruining the car in some states on some Grand Prix, which was the actual thing that they had an advantage in last time out with Aston Martin with the other floor. So going back, working upon bigger improvements. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.